What's up guys, Ryan here from Handgun, and today's video is going to be a little bit of a continuation from yesterday's video where I talked about right now as being a good time to buy an AR-15 lower or just have some spares. And I had a comment talking about, just buy a spare rifle instead of a spare lower. And there's some truth into that because honestly, what would you rather do? Would you rather have spare parts for your guns or a spare gun altogether? And I think there's merits to both. So I just wanted to talk about that today as kind of a continuation. So yeah, you can have, where'd I put them? You can have some spare lowers for rifles, which these are just the serialized part of an AR-15. So you can buy this lower. I talked about it in yesterday's video that right now they're probably some of the cheapest prices. I understand that they were cheap years ago too, but right now is just one of the better times to buy AR lowers. You can get complete lowers for relatively inexpensive, like sub $200 from what I've seen. You can get strip lowers for about $30, and that is the serialized part, and it's nice to have, a spare lower in case you ever wanted to build an AR down the road and parts are hard to get. Well, chances are it's going to be the lower that's hard to get because it's a serialized item. Everything else can be shipped to your door as long as you're not in a restrictive state. But the other argument to that is why not just have a spare gun? And I agree with that. I'm not dissing that idea at all because I have quite a few spare guns, and I think it just kind of depends on where you are at, because when I first got into guns, I mean, guns are expensive, I know that. Everyone's viewpoint of what they're willing to spend is going to vary, so I think it's important to just kind of figure out where you're at in your life for that, and then how important some of this stuff is to you, because guns can be expensive if you're building up an entire spare gun. So having some spare parts is much cheaper, but you can work your way to having a spare gun. So at first, when I kind of got into guns, I didn't necessarily have spare parts. I didn't have spare anything. I bought a rifle, then I bought a shotgun, then I bought a handgun, and then I just worked from there. So I think you don't have to go all into just one subject up front. You can just go all in on a handgun or just go all in on a rifle. It just depends on what you want to do. But at a certain point, it is nice to have a spare, part or entire gun. So I guess what I'm getting with that is, like, my very first carry gun was the Smith & Wesson Shield. Actually, it was my Glock 34, but as soon as I could physically get an actual concealed carry gun, I did, because I wanted something smaller. So this is a Gen 1 Smith & Wesson Shield. It's chambered, so I'm not going to mess with it too much. But yeah, it's just a Gen 1 shield with Trijicon HD night sights and an Apex trigger. I got a Tier 1 concealed holster for it. And this has been my carry gun from whenever I turned 21, so like 7 years ago, till just like 8 months ago. That's been my main carry gun. I have a Shadow Systems, which I've shown on the channel a bunch of times. That's my concealed carry / duty gun, because I like the Shadow Systems a lot. But other than that, this has really been my carry gun for years. And I just finally, sometime last year, bought this Glock 43. It's a Langdon Tactical Edition, so it's got a Trijicon RMR, trigger job, and it's a really nice gun. I like it. I like the idea of having a red dot on there. And at some point, I'd like to get something else a little bit higher capacity, because these are both 8-rounders. My Shadow Systems is higher capacity, but it's just much bigger, so I'm thinking like a SIG macro size pistol, like the SIG P365 macro. Holds 17 rounds, but it's still small. But what's nice about these concealed carry guns is they are small, and I like the idea of having my shield as a backup to this. I just did a concealed carry match a couple weeks ago, and I brought this in my bag in case this gun went down. So in an instance like that where you might be shooting competitions, it's good to have a backup gun that you trust, or backup rifle, backup handgun. So I think it's worth it to me to have a spare gun that I'm comfortable with, I know how to shoot. They are different, but they're relatively close enough, so I don't think it's that bad. But yeah, I like the idea of having a spare carry gun just in case one breaks. You can do spare parts too. The thing with carrying parts is you don't know what part's going to break. It could be your barrel. Depending on what happens, your entire gun can be out of service. So at that point, I would rather have a spare gun than a spare part. So that's kind of my idea about that. And then same thing with rifles. I have a bunch of ARs. For the longest time I didn't. It really wasn't until like after COVID that I started getting more ARs. I think most of COVID I only had 3 ARs. I had this Daniel Defense here. I had my Honey Badger, and then I feel like I had one more. I don't exactly remember, but it wasn't until just a few years ago that I really got the AR bug and just started collecting a bunch. But I also shoot a lot. But yeah, in that time, I've built up a lot of guns that are very similar to each other. So this is my very first AR. I've been building it up for years, since 2018. It's a Daniel Defense V5 that I SBR'd. It's got a 12.5-inch barrel. And yeah, it's one of my go-to rifles. But if this gun were to ever go down, I have plenty of spares. This is also a 12.5-inch. This is a Cobalt Kinetics. And for the most part, it's built up the exact same. I understand that. Is it worth it to have 2 of the exact same guns? Again, it's kind of up to you. I really enjoy it. I have no problems having two guns that are very similar. It's what makes me happy. So I think that's important, you know, do what makes you happy. But what's cool about this is it's very similar to that, and it's going to feel relatively the same shooting it. I like that it's a different color. It's kind of like Cobalt's OD green, but it's more like a dark chocolate brown. But I got OD green furniture on here, EOTech, and just some flat darker stuff too. But I mean, again, this is going to be so close to this gun that, I mean, realistically, they're about the same thing. They serve the same purpose. I don't really see much of a difference between them other than like cosmetics and looks. But again, I like it. So anytime, let's say I go do a competition with one rifle, I'll bring something similar to it. Like I'm doing a rifle match next month on the 4th of July. I'm bringing my Scar 17 out there, and then I'm going to bring a spare rifle that's similar in case that went down. So again, I think it's worth it to have spares. It doesn't have to be an exact spare, but like I'm never going to build this exact gun, but I'll build similar stuff like this. So that's kind of how close I'll get to my spares. Handgun wise, I mean, maybe I'll get similars. Like I could definitely see myself having 2 Glock 19s or 2 Glock 17s, whatever, stuff like that, because they're just common. But rifle wise, I do try to set them up slightly differently, or just like a different theme to the build, like a different color scheme. So I like that. I'm even to the point where I have like suppressors for each of these, but I ended up getting another dead air suppressor. So these are both the exact same. I just decided that I wanted to have another one because I have so many tan guns that these would go on. So again, it just depends on whatever point you're at in your gun collecting. So I know it's not for everyone, but that's just kind of where I'm at with that. And then there's some guns, I have this out here as an example. There are some guns that I'm probably not going to have two of the exact same of. Like this is my Scar 16. It's a SBR 10-inch, and I've got a lot of money tied up into this. I don't see myself building another 10-inch Scar 16 SBR like this. Now what I could see myself doing is a 16-inch Scar 16. Like if I got another Scar 16 for around $2,000, which I've seen people get them close to $2,000. I haven't seen anyone get them for like right at 2 in a long time. But if I had the opportunity to get another Scar 16 for maybe like $2,000 or less, it'd be hard for me to pass up. But I don't think I'd SBR. I would probably just build out a 16-inch Scar 16. So that's kind of how close I'll get to some stuff, to the point where I don't mind having different configurations of the same gun. People do this with like clone rifles too, like different Mark 18 setups, different M4A1 setups. So I know I'm not the only one, but I know some people don't understand it. Those of you guys that understand it, I mean, we're on the same page. We get it. But if you don't get it, and like it kind of bothers you that people have multiples of the same guns, I mean, that's kind of up to you. I do have spare parts too. Like this is just like a little AR-15 repair kit. It's got springs and detents and stuff. I've never used it. I've never really broken a gun out like while doing any competitions or anything. So luckily I haven't needed it, but I do have spare pins. To be honest, I don't even keep this in my range bag. It just sits here at the house because anytime I've ever done a competition, I just have a spare gun out there with me. Because that's the thing. You don't know exactly what could break. I've seen a lot of stuff break out, like doing stuff. Like I've seen gas tubes break. I've seen trigger pins fall out. And if you don't have a trigger pin, it's kind of crazy. Like one little pin screws up the entire function of your gun, but you don't know what's going to malfunction. So I think it's worth it to have a spare gun. And you don't even have to go spend the exact same amount of money, right? Like these are both like more expensive setups, but I do like the fact that there are so many AR companies nowadays that are producing, I would say, decent stuff. I'm not going to say it's the greatest stuff, but they're producing decent stuff at an affordable price. Palmetto, like they're not known for being high end, but they produce, I would say, a decent quality gun. Like I haven't really seen too many like major issues with them. We've had a lot of transfers come through our store, and I've seen some weird stuff like parts missing or yeah, just some like odd stuff like that. But like just a total malfunction gun, probably not. Like they're pretty decent and they'll take care of you if you have any issues. But what I could see with that is, let's say you put all your money into one really nice gun and then you buy a cheaper Palmetto or something comparable and build it up similar. So like let's say I want an EOTech on this, but I build a clone rifle of it and I put a hollow cell on there because it's a lot less expensive. You can get optics that are similar, lights that are similar. Like this is a Surefire. You could buy a Streamlight to be comparable to that. So you don't have to put the same amount of money into your spare rifle or spare parts as your main gun, because it's just kind of worst case scenario. It's like having a spare tire. Chances are your spare tire is not the exact same tire that the other four are, but it's just nice to have a spare. So that's just kind of the thought process between gun people, whether you have spare parts, spare guns, spare suppressors. It's kind of up to you and how far you want to take it. I have no limits. It kind of just depends on what deal falls in my lap, because I work in a gun store. I see new guns coming into the store every single day of the week, and that's hard for someone like me. Not like hard, but like I really enjoy it, but it makes it tough to just sit there and not buy guns for months on end, because we get cool stuff coming in every single day. So that's why I kind of accumulate stuff fast, but I know not everyone's in the same boat. Some people have really good restraint. It's hard to have restraint when I spend like 60 hours a week at a gun store. So that's just kind of where I'm at with it. But again, it's just kind of wherever you're at with your gun hobby. I shoot every single week. I talk about guns every single day, so it's worth it for me to invest in it. But if you shoot once a month or a couple times a year, you probably don't need to be buying duplicates of everything. But it's nice to have just a couple things, like maybe 2 handguns, 2 rifles, maybe 2 shotguns if you want. But again, it's up to you. One of my friends who's a police officer, he has 2 completely identical ARs because his AR is his personal gun. Some departments are different. Some departments will let officers use their personal gun as long as they approve it. Like, they're not gonna let them choose like those cheap ARs. But his duty gun is a Daniel Defense V7, and he has 2 of the exact same build outs. So V7s with aim points, with all his other accessories. He has it built the exact same because if he's involved in a shooting, he doesn't get that one rifle for a little bit. He gets it back at some point, but chances are he's going to be out that rifle for a little bit, but he still works. So he doesn't want to use the department issued guns. He doesn't like them, so that's why he sticks with his Daniel Defense. But yeah, that makes perfect sense why he would need 2 of the exact same gun, because if you're actually using it for duty use, it's nice to be familiar with the gun that you're using. Yeah, just kind of figure out where you're at, but I just wanted to talk about this because I think it's a good question to have. Should you have spare parts or should you have spare guns? Again, it's up to you. I like having both, but I'm basically minimal on my spare parts. Like, this is about the majority of the spare AR parts I have. I used to have like spare bolt carrier groups and everything, but they ended up going into guns that I bought or trading towards other parts I wanted. So this is basically the only spare AR parts I have, besides like grips and accessories like that. But other than that, I mean, I'm just to the point where I have enough rifles that if one were to go down, I have a spare rifle. So I don't really buy spare parts as much anymore. I just kind of focus on building up new guns. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for my next video.